Ja, hallo und willkommen oder auch willkommen zurück zum Skopos Impulse Day. Mein Name ist Lukas Nospa, falls Sie mich noch nicht kennen. Ich bin Key Account Manager hier bei Skopos und seit nunmehr 8 Jahren im Unternehmen. Bevor ich die nächsten Referenten ansage, ein kleiner Hinweis. Sie haben es vielleicht in der Agenda gesehen, der nächste Vortrag kommt ein bisschen internationaler daher und wir haben einen Gastreferenten aus UK gleich zugeschaltet. Der Vortrag wird also auf Englisch stattfinden und deswegen switche ich jetzt auch mal kurz in der Sprache und sage Welcome to Skopos Impulse Day 2021. At next, we will have a look into the research kitchen of our experts from SKOPOS CONNECT and their partner Qualtrics. Tim Farmer, who is solution strategist at Qualtrics, and Martin Grupe, managing director of SKOPOS CONNECT, are both experts for customer feedback and customer experience solutions. And today they will show you how a good experience management and research community can go hand in hand. So be curious about what's coming up. In case you have any questions, just like in the presentations before, you can put them in the chat window on the right and we will answer them straight at the end of the talk. Wenn es Ihnen leichter fällt, dürfen Sie die Fragen natürlich auch auf Deutsch stellen. Wir werden die dann für Tim übersetzen oder auch gleich auf Deutsch beantworten. So for the moment, I can only say have a lot of fun and I hand over to Tim and Martin. The stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can see my screen now. That should work. Let me first quickly introduce myself. My name is Martin. I'm the founder and managing director of SKOPOS CONNECT. So we are experts for CX and communities. And I'm presenting together with Tim. Tim, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much to Skopos for inviting me this afternoon as well. So my role within Qualtrics is I'm a solution strategist responsible for our core research platforms across the EMEA region. I've a long background and history in market research and insights. So I look forward to talking to you this afternoon.
So let's get the show on the road, Tim.
Fantastic. So, we've got some great things to show you this afternoon. And what we will do is throughout a number of the slides is we'll look through this dual lens, starting with on one side thinking about customer experience and really explaining to you about the benefits of customer experience and the power of that. But in particular, the subject of our talk this afternoon is about how to spice up your research and your insights with communities. And that's really what we want to be able to focus on, to show you the value that you can get from building your own customer communities in terms of all of the research and the insights that you might conduct, but in particular also thinking about how that relates to customer experience. And it really is about how you can generate agile, actionable research and insights, but you can do that in a conversation with your customers. That's very much on brand as well. So it's very much part of your general brand communications and conversations. Your research merges into something very common. So that's what we're going to focus on. So we'll think about those two dimensions in a number of the areas that we show you. And there are some fantastic some fantastic examples as well that we'll be able to share with you of some communities that generate some very rich insights that really do deliver value to the business. So you'll see more about that as we go through this afternoon. But what I wanted to do on the next slide was to take some time to introduce Qualtrics to you first, because you may or may not be aware of Qualtrics, but it's this partnership between Qualtrics and Skopos, which is incredibly powerful, which is enabling our joint customers to be able to, as I said, have an agile approach to gathering insights, to understand what customers want, to understand that now, and to be able to make business decisions on the back of that. But I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk to you about the Qualtrics, about Qualtrics in the first instance before we go into the detail there. So the first thing really to talk to you about is that we describe Qualtrics as an operating system for business. So the XM, experience management, the XM operating system. And what we mean by that is that Qualtrics, through the various solutions that we provide, really does become part of the genetics, part of the DNA about how businesses operate. Whether that is involved in terms of how businesses design new experiences, whether that is new products, creating new products, understanding how to package those products, where the price points should be, but also in terms of the brands, understanding, building new customer experiences, and also employee experiences are very key to Qualtrics. And we have this unique positioning that we are very much looking at both designing those experiences, but also how to continue improving experience on an ongoing basis. And that really cuts to the core of what customer experience in particular is about. So it is about being able to reach out to people at every single touch point to understand what works, to understand what doesn't work, and how to improve that, how to improve the business at the bottom line. And there are three key aspects that really drive that. In terms of our listening engine, which is XMD or XM Directory. So that is the tool that is very much the engine that is behind all of the feedback, all of the data that is collected, that collects data across many different sources, and enables you to track that and to understand people's behavior over time, from a longitudinal perspective in terms of research, but also from a customer perspective as well. And that's brought to life by the IQ Suite, which is our analytics tool. So inbuilt into the platform, so there's no need to move from one platform to another, but inbuilt into the platform, we have an analytics suite, which includes a number of tools, such as our Stats IQ Suite or our Text IQ Suite, our Text Analysis Suite. And the whole point of those tools is that they're built for people who are not statisticians to be able to use. So we always like to say this is about letting the platform and the software do the hard work so that our users, so it really democratizes and it makes it easier for people to actually really surface the insights that are powerful. And finally, the point that really turns that into action is a component called Xflow, which is very much about how you automatically create actions on the back of behaviors or on the back of data that we see. So particularly in a customer experience world, that could be that if we see that somebody has had a particularly negative experience, that is automatically routed through to a department who might be able to resolve that. Equally, in a research world, it's something that we build and we would use in terms of perhaps building new consumer panels, which is very relevant for what we're going to talk about today as well. So this process is all to do with putting a whole engine of listening, understanding, and acting. And it's to do that in a seamless, automated way. So then on to the next slide, or the next build here, which is to tell you a little bit more about how that works from a Qualtrics perspective. So the XM operating system is built around the four key experiences that are customer experience, product experience, employee, and brand. And I've separated out two there. One is what we call design experience, Design XM, which is very much, as I said earlier, about designing your experiences and understanding how that works, particularly from a product and a service perspective. But it is also very much our market research and our insights engine. So it's a key part, I think, of the relationship that we have with Skopos in particular, is about using Qualtrics as a market research tool. The other side of that is our own services arm. But that's not something we're really talking about today. This is something, as I said, what powers what we're talking about today is the combination of Skopos and in particular with Design XM solutions. So I think then we can move on to the next slide again. And this is really just to return back to the picture that I said earlier, which we're going to look at in the lens of, and everything Martin will show later as well, in terms of moving from customer experiences into customer communities and how that works. So customer experience is about understanding and measuring and reacting and preempting every single customer touch point, whether that's a retail customer, whether it is an airline, whether it's somebody buying a car or they're buying clothes online. So it's making sure that that customer journey is optimized, and that we're able to understand what works well and how we can improve that experience the whole way along. Where the community becomes really powerful, and this is where I think some of the examples will be really clear, is that the community shows you, enables you to actually really refine and improve that, but within the same conversations that you have with your customers, and with your potential customers as well. So I think, again, that can come into whether it is about simulating the real experience, or it could be about serving quick polls or forums and chat rooms. And for me, this then makes it a one-stop, from a respondent and from a panelist point of view. It makes it a one-stop shop for all research. So I think if we go on to the next slide, and again, I don't want to go too much into what Martin's going to be able to talk to you about in a minute. So just to pull apart some of those points I was just mentioning there already, customer experience is about having the optimized approach to acquiring new customers and onboarding new customers. It is about customer loyalty. So to make sure that when you've got customers, you've got the perfect customer journey, that you understand what works. It's ensuring that you do that with the lowest cost to service, increasing market share. And it's very much a key part of a brand's overall experience, which absolutely relates to awareness and equity as well. Where the community goes to that extra level is it really helps you to understand much more about the why. So the customer experience will help you, but the customer community enables you to really delve deeply into what's driving a customer's needs, their views, their values, and their beliefs. And it opens up a conversation. And I think that's what's really important, is you've got a group of people who have agreed to participate in this community where they're open to create feedback. So it becomes a conversation. It's not just something that is perhaps transactional when somebody's buying something. It's something where you can have an ongoing conversation to help improve a customer experience, a product, or a service. And crucially, it incorporates all aspects of research. And this, for me, is something that I find really interesting. So my background is very much 20, however many years, between 25 and 30. I won't give away my age too much, on very much quantitative research. But what I really love about the customer communities is I think it brings qualitative research into the same conversation as quantitative research, and enables you to have those crossover insights between your focus groups, your in-depth interviews, and what you already know about people from a quantitative perspective as well. And also, particularly, and this is why the partnership with SKOPOS is so important, it's a fully managed solution. So you've got the ability to conduct all of this research in one place, and you've got the ability also for somebody to be able to provide the services to manage that solution for you. And I love this last point just before I hand on, and I think Martin will probably be able to give you some examples now, but I absolutely love this point, that it's a really cool touch point with your brand. It is research that is part of the brand conversation, which is a really key thing in terms of just the overall, when you think about the respondent experience as being part of the customer experience. So over to you, Martin.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Yeah, I think the last point is also a good starting point for me to elaborate a bit on how these two things belong together. So we've learned that XM is a very powerful operating system from Qualtrics. Communities are let's say, very strong to do deep dives. But the last point, this cool touch point with your brand, I think that's created also with it's an experience to be part of the community, and that's what it's all about. So research becomes a positive experience, and in order to demonstrate you how these two things belong together and how they create value, let me quickly jump into two use cases. First of all, I've showed you earlier, so last year in the Impulse Day, the Porsche Advisors Club, and we did a live demo of how this community looks like and how Porsche is working with this. So we are conducting this community for now 3 years, and we are currently doing about 100 research projects every year across Germany and also now China. And what it's mainly about is that Porsche has a very quick access to their own client. It's mainly about they do a lot of product research, and they ask a lot of questions which haven't been asked before, because a few might be, let's say, too simple. In a very simple quick poll is like, do you lock your glove box in the car, or how often actually do you use the top speed of your Porsche? So very simple questions. Nobody invested into doing research or a full research project on these simple questions, but it's all important touch points to understand your customers better. And we've created a very agile and quick tool. So it's mainly about the speed with which we generate research and insights, and established it within Porsche. And overall, we are doing research 3 times faster than we did it before. But what's going on since the beginning of the year, that Porsche is also investing into customer experience, so CX work. So Porsche bought a global Qualtrics license, and we are the partner to integrate these into the Porsche system. So we are implementing different touch points, so go touch point by touch point, and we are bringing the two systems together. So at the moment, we are at the very beginning. It's more about integrating the Qualtrics system with the Porsche IT landscape, but they fully understand how these two can work together. So that's one client who's investing into this. And I also have a second use case to show you, which comes kind of from the other side. We have launched a huge CX program for Rewe Group a couple of years ago. So last year we did about 1.5 million interviews. We are going in the direction of 2 million interviews, online interviews, across over 6,000 Rewe shops. So it's Rewe, Penny, Thum, Weinfreunde, and 1 or 2 other brands of Rewe. And we are doing NPS scores, and we do research on the overall Rewe brand, but also drill it down to the individual markets. So if people have a problem in the market, etc., and report everything through the Qualtrics system to individual dashboards, etc. So and Rewe is now investing. So they did a pilot study with a community, because they figured out, okay, we can identify a lot of problems, but we need a partner to work on these problems to find a solution. And they've invested into a community. We did a community pilot at the end of last year, and we are converting it into a very long-term community. So to have this counterpart for Rewe to work very closely with their clients on solutions for problems they have identified throughout the CX process. So which kind of brought us to the idea of what we call double XM. I mean, it's a very bold name, but we think it hits the nail, because great experience always starts with great research. So it's about the CX program of Rewe. It's pretty much about to track every customer interaction and analyze the data to identify and close the experience gap. So what it's about, and the community is more about doing the deep dive with your customers and work jointly with them on solutions for better products and services. And these two companies identified the opportunity of bringing these two together. And in order to bring these two together, we need to integrate these on 2 levels. So first of all, we need to integrate the technology because, I mean, the idea is nice, but we need to have one technology where everything flows together, and we need to integrate the content so that it works together. So let's start with the content. So how does this really work for us? So as I mentioned earlier, so from a CX program, we identify the pain points that clients have, which might be down, for example, to a specific market or to a specific Porsche dealer whatsoever, or some steps in the process. And we can work in the community on relevant solutions, and we can do this very quickly. We don't have to recruit people, find a sample or anything. We identify the problem, and we can immediately start pushing this problem with the ask of for a solution into the community and work with relevant clients. And last but not least, it's also a very nice ongoing re-recruitment source, or a source for initial recruitment, because I mean, there's no better place in time if people give a very short and neat feedback through an NPS score and an open question to ask them, are you interested in helping us out and finding new solutions together with us? And we have an ongoing feedback in the CX process, and it's very valuable to recruit people right from this CX process into the community because we got people at the right time and the right motivation. The other way around, from the community, we produce a lot of actionable solutions. So people, let's say, identify we have a problem with a hygienic concept at river markets whatsoever. We worked on a solution together with the clients, and we can immediately put them back and test them in the CX process and ask people, have you seen our solution? What do you think of it? Would you recommend it? Is there something that can be improved? And it's kind of a qualitative extension that we have to a CX process, because normally it's very quantitative and it's a short survey. We get a lot of insights from the open-ended questions, but it's an opportunity to really deep dive with a smaller group, because we are not interested in 2 million qualitative interviews. It's more about we need 20 video interviews, something. And this toggling forth and back, it's all about the improvement of the overall experience. So why the name double XM in terms of double your experience management is just about right for this. In terms of technology, so this slide looks a bit more complex, but basically it's very simple. How we can do it is it all comes down, how do we match data centrally to the personal data of people? So how do we match data between what people do in the CX process with what they do in the community, and how do we make it a flawless experience for everybody? And last but not least, how do we take advantage of the technology of Qualtrics, of Text IQ, Driver IQ, and Stats IQ, so all those live dashboard software and the opportunities to analyze the data. And what we've done, and that's also kind of where our name Connect was kind of derived from, is we connected the systems through a standardized API. So if you take the arrow on the right between the design exam and Connect, it's that we use the standard API to use Qualtrics as a quantitative survey tool within the community, but we can also push back all the data, whether it's qualitative data, data from forums, video IDIs, anything into the Qualtrics analytics suite. But we can also push there the behavioral data within the community. So the community health dashboard and everything can be done live in the Qualtrics dashboards and analyzed and shared and everything. So we can take advantage of these. And we connect this system flawlessly with the XM directory. So the XM directory, as Tim presented, is something like a central repository for all the personal data. It can be integrated very easily with a CRM system, and it matches all the personal data, and it measures all the touch points that people have with a CX survey and within the community. So we can fully sync the XM directory with the community. We can get a very simple opt-in. If people say, hey, I'm willing to participate in the community, we can sample this person in the community and therefore do a very flawless extension from the CX process, from the XM directory into the qualitative extension in the community. So the music is within those orange arrows, because we have a total free flow of data between all those systems, which means we can integrate the community freely directly with the CRM system, with anything what's happening in the CX process, and we can freely use all the Qualtrics tools within the community and also analytics tools, which is a very powerful combination. So, and what it all comes down to in the end is that we have one integrated system, which is very action focused. So it's pretty much about identify a problem, work on a solution, retest the solution, identify opportunities to improve it, identify new problems. So it goes forth and back between the two systems. It's very holistic and agile because it's all integrated in one system. We don't have any project briefings or samplings, anything. Because it is in one system, we can work very immediate with it. And it also means for our clients that they have full ownership of all the data and all the insights. And this is combined with a very flexible servicing model, which is important. I'll elaborate on this on the next slide. And we should think of it that feedback becomes part of the overall experience, right? So it's a positive thing to give feedback. It's not painful to do market research. It's very positive for people to participate and improve the products they buy and improve their overall experience, also through a very engaging community. And it's all in one platform. So the technical integration is really an important thing to ensure that we are really agile and fast, and that we have a central repository for all the data. And last but not least, what's really important is that we have an enterprise-grade software for data protection and security, which is ISO certified and which works for all large organizations across the globe. In terms of servicing, I mean, it's not so much that we say, okay, there's a community project or a CX project. It's more like a program that you start. It's nothing where you say, oh, we do it, we build it in 3 months and then it's done. It's a longer commitment, and it has a lot to do with platform integration. So how do all the tools communicate together with your IT landscape to ensure a flawless flow of data, which is automated and not a manual process. We also need to implement such a platform, which means that we cover all the touch points in your CX process. We actually build the community, we design it, we take care of the content in the community, we distribute the service and everything. What's also important is we do, in terms of program delivery from our end, also some legal and IT consulting, because in these projects, normally lots of personal data is involved, and it's important to be very clear about that and talk to the legal departments and IT departments because they're involved. We also take care of the recruitment, so we design the onboarding journeys. We do active recruitment if we want to interview or have non-clients, for example, within the community. We take care of the entire community management, so to keep it balanced, not to over-invite people, not to forget people who are very motivated, and do not send them invitations and anything. And we also do on-demand full-service research services, because, as I said, it's an entire program, and what we've experienced that most of our clients are very keen to outsource all of this and have one partner who can deliver on those. So that's where SKOPOS kicks in and comes together with Qualtrics. So last but not least, so why working together is so much fun. So we have now, Tim, it's over 5 years of partnership. So actually Qualtrics and SKOPOS CONNECT, we are partners since day one of getting incorporated with SKOPOS CONNECT, which is now almost 6 years ago. And I think we've joined forces quite successfully. So we work for a lot of really cool brands, which make me extremely proud. 6 years after I founded this company, that we really work with some of the most respected brands for very important strategic projects, and it's a wonderful partnership. I'm not sure if you want to add something to this, Tim, but it's a lot of fun, and it's super interesting projects that we do, and it's we learn from it and together with our clients every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to take your invitation there, Martin. I mean, I love this. As I said, I mean, my background is I've been a fairly large scale quantitative researcher for years. I've worked in many different types of panels, long-term measurement panels, and various other similar projects. And what I really like about the partnership and how we can work together is the fact that we can within this community that we're able to create for customers, we can provide whatever research solutions people like. So the same community, we can be contacting them to participate in a focus group, an online a video in-depth interview, or we can be asking them to they can be participating in perhaps a conjoint study to understand how to price and to package. So I love it because I think it's one opportunity to create a community of people on brand to conduct pretty much all research need that you might have. And as I said, I just think for me, it's also recognizing, which has always been throughout my career, has been a really an annoyance when I've seen market research done where it doesn't actually consider the respondent experience. And this considers the respondent experience. And when good research is done and you feel like it's a conversation, you get good insights and you get good data. And I think that's what you get from these sorts of communities.
Okay, thank you, Tim. So that was basically it from our presentation. Thank you very much for your valuable time. So in case you have any questions, please feel free to enter those into the chat. I need to try to find my Teams window because this somehow vanished. The devil is in the detail. Here we go.
I have an eye on the chat. No questions so far, but of course, we would be happy to answer all your questions. At this point, I would also say thank you very much, Tim and Martin, for sharing your insights and your experiences. I'm sure the audience enjoyed it as much as I did. And yeah, while we are waiting for questions, I have myself noted a question, which I would ask you now. You've given some examples from different industries, like our Advisors Club for Porsche or our solution for Rewe as one of the biggest German retailers. And I've thought about industries where there might be less involvement from customers, like let's say the telecommunications industry or the energy or financial sector. Would a solution like this, like a holistic approach, work there also, or do I have to consider some special details there to keep customers engaged?
Yeah, I mean, Porsche is a very obvious example, and it's very cool to be part of the Porsche Advisors Club. But we also do very successful communities within the insurance industry, for example. Or we do B2B communities with professional craftsmen. So it's, I mean, yeah, certainly it's easier with Porsche. But even in a B2B context, it's all about the relevance, right? So if you have a relevant topic for the people to discuss within the community, that's why it works. And within a community, we don't need 10 or 20,000 people. It's more it's a smaller, very intimate group. So very often a few hundred, or let's say 1,000 or 2,000 people are way enough to have a very good in-depth conversation. And the same is true for CX. I mean, for any kind of CX work, we do a lot of CX work for companies none of us have ever heard of before in a B2B context, but it's very relevant, and it's a very short survey, and it comes at the right point of time. And it doesn't matter whether you start with a community or whether you start with a CX program. So, I mean, if you do both, that's where it comes together, and you need to kind of build this program step by step. You can't do it in a week or something. And it's all about the relevance. So, and it works across all industries. So we didn't find a single one which we couldn't manage successfully. Let's say it that like this. But for sure, there are some which are a bit harder to get feedback on. But you need to focus on the value that you get out of it. And sometimes the alternative is that you know nothing, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I would add, I think with a community, yes, certain communities, certain natures and certain projects are going to be really, you can see they're a very obvious fit, whether that's about product perhaps, or you've got a sort of a high touch relationship between a consumer and a brand. But I don't think that means, I just think that there's a different treatment in other sectors. So absolutely, you can be using this for banking customers, financial services, and other areas. It's really, and I think that's the bit for me, the way the community works is your relationship through the community mirrors in many ways the relationship you have with the product or the brand. Okay. So it's a different. It's going to be different if you are looking at an electronics or Porsche, electronics manufacturer or Porsche, than it would be for somebody who was selling home insurance. But there is still a way in which you do it. And the nature and the frequency and the type of the research might be different. But a community, ultimately, for me, a community is a really a great way to do, firstly, affordable research, because you have a single cost of acquisition. Often with these people, they're either already your customers or you have to get them once. Once you've got them signed up, you've got a community of people who are already agreed to participate in research, which is a really powerful thing for you to have. So you can get responses for them quickly, you can manage that quickly. So I think, and that's what we found with working with Skopos, is that it's not that you pull out one solution and see how it works for all people. You look at what's the nature of the challenges that we're trying to solve, and what's the type of solution or the type of community that would work best for a particular customer.
Mm. This totally makes sense. And maybe you've already answered the question that came up in the chat in the meanwhile. One of our listeners would like to know, does my brand need to have fans already before starting a community? Or can I also turn people into fans via such a community?
Totally. And look, I mean, I'm happy to jump in there. So I think first and foremost, we've worked together with Martin for products where we have been not looking for product purchasers or people who are aware of that brand, but maybe people who are in the target market. So the community doesn't necessarily need to be branded. It can be white labeled. So you could be looking at, and I'm just trying to look around me, coffee buyers, for example, coffee drinkers. You could look at something like that rather than picking on a particular brand. So absolutely, and it depends on the purposes and the objectives of what you want to do. Can you use the community to turn people into fans? The bottom line of customer experience is how to turn, and it's one of our expressions within Qualtrics, is turn followers into fans. So totally.
Yeah. And Yeah, as I said, the community with the B2B professional craftsmen is an unbranded one. Yeah, it was challenging, but it works. It works really well.
Great. Well, then I think what's left to say from my side.
Maybe there's one more point I'd like to mention. I want to draw your attention to the next presentation from my colleagues from SKOPOS Nova. So they're presenting on a UX community. It will be the next thing we are going to talk about, Tim as well. And they did some really, really cool stuff on how to turn or how to use a community for UX work. And I can only highly recommend everybody to join this presentation. And the good news, it will be in German again, as far as I know. So thank you all very much for joining us and having us. And it was a pleasure to have you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Stay tuned. Wir sehen uns um 17 Uhr dann gleich wieder. Der Martin hat den Vortrag so angekündigt, ich könnte es nicht besser machen. Also bleiben Sie dran, es bleibt spannend. Und ja, ich sage danke und bis gleich.
Danke, tschüss.